Why controls fail in real life? Most organizations believe they are well protected because they have controls. Policies are documented. Approvals are defined. Checks are in place. On paper, everything looks robust. Yet failures still occur. After every incident, the same question is asked: didn't we have controls? The answer is almost always yes. So the real issue is not the absence of controls. It is why controls fail when they are needed most. Controls give a sense of comfort. They create the impression that risk has been contained. But real life is messy. It involves pressure, urgency, human judgment, and unexpected situations. And controls designed for ideal conditions often break under real-world stress. Most controls are designed for normal operations. They assume sufficient time, adequate staffing, predictable processes, stable conditions. But failures rarely occur during calm periods. They occur during peak demand, tight deadlines, emergencies, rapid change. Under pressure, people adapt. Steps are skipped to save time. Approvals are bypassed to keep things moving. Documentation is completed later, or not at all. The control hasn't disappeared. It has simply become impractical. Controls fail not because they are wrong, but because they are not designed for how work is actually done. Controls rely on human behavior. People are expected to follow procedures, apply judgment consistently, escalate issues without hesitation. But humans behave differently under pressure. When faced with deadlines, people prioritize delivery over compliance. When problems repeat, shortcuts feel justified. When escalation feels risky, silence feels safer. Over time, controls become flexible instead of firm. Not because people are careless, but because they are trying to cope. Risk management often assumes people will behave ideally. Real life proves otherwise. Controls that ignore human behavior are fragile by design. Consider a common operational scenario. A control requires dual approval for critical actions. During normal periods, it works well. During peak workload, approvals slow operations. To keep things moving, teams agree informally. Approve now, document later. Nothing goes wrong initially, so the workaround continues. Over time, the control still exists, but only on paper. One day, a critical error occurs. There is no proper approval trail. Accountability is unclear. The organization asks, why was the control bypassed? But the real question should be, why did the control become unworkable under pressure? Controls are not static. Organizations change. Systems evolve. Volumes increase. Roles shift. Complexity grows. But controls often remain unchanged. What worked 5 years ago may be insufficient today. As gaps appear, people compensate with workarounds. Each workaround weakens the original control. Over time, the control still exists formally, but its effectiveness has eroded. This is called control decay. It happens quietly, without formal failure. By the time an incident occurs, the control has already been ineffective for a long time. Another reason controls fail is misplaced focus. Many controls check whether an activity happened. Was the form filled? Was the approval recorded? Was the checklist completed? But they don't always check outcomes. A control can be followed perfectly and still fail to prevent risk. For example, a review may occur, but critical issues may not be challenged. Compliance is achieved, but risk remains. When controls focus on completion instead of effectiveness, they become ceremonial. They protect processes, not outcomes. When a failure occurs, it feels unexpected. People say, we followed the controls. We complied with procedures. And they may be right, but compliance does not guarantee safety. The failure feels sudden because control weaknesses were hidden. Workarounds were normalized. Human behavior was ignored. The organization relied on the existence of controls, not their performance under stress. Controls didn't fail suddenly. They failed gradually, long before the incident. Effective controls are designed for reality. They account for pressure, anticipate exceptions, allow escalation without penalty. They are reviewed regularly, not assumed effective forever. Strong organizations ask, does this control still work during peak stress? Where are people bypassing it? And why? What behavior is this control actually encouraging? They treat workarounds as signals, not misconduct. Controls that adapt with the organization remain relevant. Controls that don't will eventually fail. Controls fail in real life not because organizations don't care about risk. They fail because reality is complex. Pressure distorts behavior, and controls are often designed for ideal conditions. The real risk question is not, do we have controls? It is, do our controls still work when things go wrong? Because controls that only function in calm conditions offer comfort, not protection. Risk management is not about perfect controls on paper. It is about controls that survive pressure, adapt to change, and influence real behavior. That is the difference between control presence and control effectiveness.